All right, in this video, I'm going to demonstrate a couple things in Packet Tracer that might help you with your Packet Tracer number 2 project and getting ready for the exam next week. So first, I'm going to throw a couple routers out. So we have 1 router, 2 routers, and 3 routers. Okay, and I'm going to add a couple of switches, just basic switches. And I'm going to add some servers. Now, when it comes with the servers, we have 4 servers for this project. So I'm going to just put all 4 of them out there just so you can see them. And a 4th server. And then finally, I'm going to add some what I call check PCs. These are the PCs that check to see if the things are working on each network. So we'll add 1 PC there, 1 PC up here, and 1 PC down here. So at this point, I'm going to just connect everything together. So I go to my connection, and I'm going to pick this auto connect for going into the switch from the devices. Go all the way around, connect all the devices to the switch. All right, so that's, step 1, add all this stuff. Step 2, connect up the switches and the devices. If you click the little fast forward button, it makes everything go green. That's kind of important. All right, now I want to use the straight through to connect the switch to the router. So I can come in and just pick the one that's left, and I want to put it on the 00. On all the routers, I'm going to put it on this 00. So I'm going to click that, and I just do that so I know which port it is. So I can always know for sure what port it is. We're only going to use the 001 on this. Okay, and notice that they're red. They're red because the port is turned off. So I'm going to do a couple labeling things. So over here, I'm going to grab a label, and I'm just going to say 192.168.1.0, and down here 2.0. and over here 3.0. Okay, and I'm doing that to kind of show you that there's actually 3 networks, right? So we have this network here, and this network over here. Okay, when I connect these routers together, we'll have 2 more networks, 1 here and 1 here. So there'll be 5 networks total. Okay, so now I want to connect the routers together. In order to do that, I need to add a serial port into here. So I turn off the router, and I grab the 2T, and I just drag it in, turn the router back on. It's going to take a second to turn back on, so we'll just turn the router off, grab the 2T, turn the router back on. Okay, do the same thing on this one. You got to turn it off first. Turn the router off, drag it down, turn it back on. Okay, now at this point, this one should be all the way booted back up. So I'm going to go back over to this 001, and I want to add my serial port. So I click on it. Actually, I can click on we're going to take this red, the red connection, the DCE connection with the clock on it, and we're going to come over here, and we're going to put it on the 01 connection, and we're going to take it down and put it on the 01 connection here. Do the same thing on this other side. It's going to go on the 1-1 connection and go on the 1-1 connection here. And again, I just do that for simplicity. Okay, so if you look, you can highlight over these, the triangle, and if you hold it over the triangle, it'll pop and tell you which each of the connections are. So both of these triangles, that's the connection for it. All right, so now what I want to do is set up my routers. Okay, so I've got to set the IPs on the servers, I got to set up the services, and I got to set up the IPs on the routers. Okay, so let's do the routers first. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to put in 10.0.0.1, actually 0.0, and over here 11.0.0.0. Okay, this is the 10 network, and we'll just call this one the 11 network. Okay, this is the 11 network. Okay, this is the 10 network, which means this port here will be 10.1 and this port here will be 10.2, 11.1, 11.2. Or it can go 11.1, 11.2, depending on, really what preference it is. It does not really matter as long as they're on the same network. Okay. All of these outside ports here, here, and here will all be the 192.168, and it's the gateway. So I like to have it as the one. So 1.1, 2.1, and 3.1. All right. So let's go into the first router, router 0. Click on the Ethernet 00. And the first thing we do is turn it on. Then 192.168.1.1. And that's pretty much done. Now we come over here to the zero. Actually, at this point, I can copy that. I just copy that and I go into RIP and add it to RIP. So that might save a step. Now I want to go to the 010 network, turn it on. And this one is going to be 10.0.0.1. Okay. And that should have auto-populated the subnet mask. And it didn't. So there's kind of an issue there. So let's do this. Turn it off, turn it on, turn it on, 10.0.0.1. There we go. Very good. So if it doesn't auto-populate, then there's kind of an issue, right? So you want to make sure it auto-populates that 255.0.0. So I hit tab. I didn't click off it. I hit tab and it auto-populated that in there. And at this point, we want to set this clock rate. On this side, we want to set the clock rate to 64,000. And it should say clock rate 64,000. Okay. And that router is pretty much set up, except we just need to grab this and rip it. So we go over here, add it to RIP. Okay. So with RIP, whatever interfaces you've used, so this interface is being used, grab the IP address. This one's not. This one is, grab the IP address. This one's not. So whatever interfaces is being used, you just paste that interface IP in here, click add, and it will add it as a network ID. Essentially what that does is it tells this router what networks are here and here. So if you look, this network and this network, go into the router, go into RIP, there's this network here and this network here. So whatever networks touch this router need to be in its RIP protocol, the router IP protocol. Okay. All right. That one's finished. Let's do this one on this side. So we come over here, config 00, turn it on, 192.168.3.1, hit tab, it auto-populates that. That part's done. Go down to serial 11. Okay, remember on this side, it's serial 11. Okay, serial 11, turn it on. And over here, let's go 11.0.0.1, hit tab, okay, and set the clock rate to 64,000. Okay, and again, we want to rip that. So we go into RIP, add it, and we go into RIP here and add that here. Okay, so again, we have this network here and this network, okay, here. So both of these networks, this network and this network, touch that router, they go into RIP. All right, so RIP is set up, the two Ethernet ports are set up and turned on, and the clock rate is set for this to 64,000. Pretty easy. We can close that router. Now let's open up this router. And it's a little bit more complicated because it has 3 networks on it. So let's open it up. Okay. And the first thing we want to do is configure this to turn it on. 192.168.2.1. That's the gateway for the 2 network. Okay. Then we go into the 010. That's the 10 network. Turn it on. 10.0.0.2. Okay. And set its clock rate to not set. Okay. So this is the 10 network. This one is set. This one is not set. Okay. So you only set the clock rate on one side. The other side is not set. Now on this one here, 111, turn it on. And this is 11.0.0.2 because the other side was .1. Tab and set that to not set also. no clock rate, change state to up, no clock rate. Okay, so that is finished. All right, so I can close that router. Now the routes work. Okay, the internet works. Okay, the whole thing is set up correctly. We have a couple things we need to do to make some configurations. So for this purposes of this, let's just make this the web server, and we'll just do a 3.2. That's the name of this. That should be the IP address. So 192.168.3.2. Over here, let's make this an email server and call it 2.2. Over here, we'll make this DHCP and call it 1.2. And here, we'll make this DNS and call that 1.3. Okay, so now let's go right now. The first thing we did, right? So first thing we did was add devices. Then connected them. Then configured routers. Okay. Now let's set up servers. And to do that, we first set IPs and then services. Okay. So let's go do that. We go into the router for the first router, DHCP. We go into desktop, IP, and 192.168. And we can look right up here. It tells you what it is. It's 1.2. So we go up here and we say 1.2. It autofills in the subnet mask. And what's the default gateway? So this is our network. The default gateway is how does it leave the network? Where does it touch the router? So this part right here, okay? We know it's 192.168.1, so we always set this here to be 1, so .1. So our default gateway for this network is 192.168.1.1, and the DNS server, this is the DNS server, is 192.168.1.3. Okay, so that's finished. Okay, we can close that. Okay, now let's do this server. So in the DNS server, we go to desktop IP config. The IP address for this one, it says right up here, 1.3. So we go 192.168.1.3, 192.168.1.1, 192.168.1.3. What is the DNS server? This is the DNS server. DNS server. Okay, close that. That's finished. Go to the email server. IP config 192.168.2.2. Where am I seeing the 2.2? Right up here. Tells me what it is. 2.2. Default gateway 192.168.2.1. Why is it 2.1? It's because it's on this network, and this port right here is the 2.1 port. Okay. DNS server 192.168.1.3. The entire network DNS server. This one is the entire DNS server for the entire network. Okay. And then finally do our web server. So we go to desktop, IP config 192.168.3.2. 192.168.3.1. Okay. 192.168.1.3. Okay, again, look at these numbers. 3.2 is its IP address. 3.1 is this port here on the third network, the port that it touches the network. Okay, all right, so we close that. All right, all of the servers are now set up. Okay, so we've set up the servers, IP, now the services. We need to go in and set up the services. Okay, so let's go into the DHCP server and let's go into services. And first we'll go to HTTP and turn them off. We don't want that web server working. Then we go to DHCP, we turn it on. And let's just get it working for this network, right? So what's the default gateway for this network? 192.168.1.1. DNS server 192.168.1.3. And let's start it at like 50. Click save. And you can see that it worked. Make this a little bit bigger. All the numbers match up right. Make sure we have a subnet mask in there. Everything is good. And let's double check that it works. We click on the PC up here, desktop, IP config, and change it to DHCP. See if it'll grab an address. And it does. It all looks right. It's working. Okay. go back onto the DHCP server. We can keep going down. DNS, it's turned off. That's perfect. Email, let's turn that one off. Okay. FTP, we can turn that one off. We just don't want to have any services running except DHCP. Now, for DHCP, we want 3 DHCP pools. Okay, a pool, this will use one pool, this can use another pool, and the third network will use a third pool. So they're very easy to make. You just add a 2 on the end, change this to a 2, and this to a 2, and click Add. Add a 3 on the end, change this to a 3, the default gateway to a 3, and change the start IP address to a 3. There, and click Add. So then you have all 3 very easily put in. The DNS servers are the same on the whole network. It's always the same. Default gateway for each pool, 3.1.2.1.1.1. Start IP, 3.2.1.1. And this is pretty much finished. Now, if we click on this PC and open up desktop and go to IP and say DHCP, it's going to throw out what we call an PIPA error. Okay, so this failed, a PIPA is being used. Okay, that means that it's just using an IP address that makes up itself. It means it's not working. Okay, so the only thing we have to do extra is on this router here, this port here, and this port here, because there's no DHCP server on this network or on this network, we need to tell this port where the DHCP server is. So we click on the router, we click on that port, which is this port here, go to CLI, and right here we type in IP, helper address, and we give it the DHCP server. Okay, so we're telling this router, okay, router 1, I don't know where my DHCP server is. Where is it? Any computer on here looking for DHCP, it's going to give it that address. It pings that right there and it says, oh, DHCP is way over here. Just like that. So let's go ahead and try it now. We click this, go to ipconfig, go to static, go back to DHCP, and it might fail. It might fail this time. Okay, it did. But if you do it again, hopefully it doesn't fail. Hopefully it goes back quick. I'm about to do a little bit of troubleshooting. All right, so let's just double check that everything is set up correctly. Let's do it one more time. Sometimes it just takes time to build the tables out. And I know sometimes this gets frustrating because you're like, well, I did everything right. So let's click on this router. Let's go to config. Let's go to rip. No network addresses have been ripped. Okay. And they might not. Yep. So they're in here. They're in here. We just never ripped them. So let's rip this one and come down here. Let's rip this one. So you can forget the littlest step. So, and then it throws these errors, right? So, and let's rip that one. So the most important things, right? Make sure these are set and turned on. Make sure rip is set up. And then make sure you add to this the, let's see if we can look at it. The IP helper address, okay? IP helper address 192.168.1.2, this here, okay? Make sure you add to that here, okay? Now let's go and look at it. So we click this, open this up, go back to static, click DHCP, and now it works. Okay. So clearly the issue was it didn't know where it was doing. Now on this one here, if I would have not done that, okay. So let me just remove rip. Okay. So I'm just going to remove these 3, remove and remove and remove, and look at this router here. This router does have rip installed. Okay. Now I need to go to this here. Okay, now remember, I need it to work on this computer here needs to grab the DHCP, which means this port here needs the IP helper address. So I click 00 CLI and type in IP helper address 192.168.1.2, click enter. And when I close it, open this up, and I click ipconfig and go to DHCP, it should still fail. Oh, it said it was successful. So it didn't fail. I would think that it would fail because this doesn't have the protocol set up, but most likely because I removed the rip. If I would not have set up rip here first, it's almost like a cached rip. because if I would have not ripped this one, this should have failed. Okay, theoretically speaking, this should not have been able to go through this router without rip installed. Okay, maybe it can, but it worked. Okay, so this is working fine. Okay, so let's go back over here and put rip back on like it's supposed to. So very easily 10.0.0.0, click add, 11.0.0.0, click add, and then 192.168.2.1 and click add. And it puts the network addresses there. We're good. I like to go into settings and click save for the router config. So it builds it all out, saves it in case there's an issue. It'll be kind of permanent. At this point, DHCP is working. It works on all the computers. If I click here, go to IP config, we can tell that it's working, but I can go off it and go back again, and it's working. Okay, gave me 51. All right, so now let's get the DNS server working. Okay, so for DNS, I need DNS for this and for this. Okay, so I need to set up a DNS for email and a DNS for web. So I'm going to come over here to DNS. And again, go to services. I'm going to click on HTTP and turn it off. I don't want to be confused. DHCP, make sure it's off. DNS, I'm going to turn it on. So I'm going to have two addresses. Let's keep it simple. Web.com. And the address for that is 192.168. And let me just double check. The address for that is on the 3 network. Okay, so .3.2. And that just basically tells everybody, hey, web.com is on 3.2. Okay, let's add another one for email. So email.com, and that email is 192.168.2.2, and click add. So if I go to email anywhere, it's going to go right to the email server. Okay, so DNS at this point is working. Now let's go down and turn off email. We don't need email turned on here, and let's turn off FTP, just so everything is turned off except the DNS. All right, DNS is configured and it works. Well, we don't know it works, but it's supposed to work. So we'll see if it works. Let's go into web, okay? And on the web server, it's already turned on, okay? Let's just change it so we can add our name. So I'm just going to say brianmarshall.com, and just so we know which one it is, right? So I'm going to get rid of some of this, and I'm going to click save, and it's going to override yes. I'm going to make sure DHCP is not turned on. I'm going to make sure DNS is not turned on. In fact, I'm going to turn off email also, okay? And then I can close that. Again, open up any server, go to web browser, and type in web.com, and click go, and it should take you to brianmarshall.com when I just changed it. So web.com points correctly to this server. That's how you know it works, okay? The last server is email. Okay, so I go into email. I'm going to click on services, HTTP, and turn it off. Don't need that on. DHCP is off. DNS is off. Email is on. So the email's domain name I set up in DNS is email.com. Okay, it could be whatever you want. Make sure you click the set button. Type in the user. I'm just going to say U1. Click add, and then do the same thing. U2. Click add, and then U3. Now you need 3 users for this because you have 3 PCs. I want them all to be set up. Email at this point is set up. On, domain name, set, U1, 2, and 3. Okay, email set up. Close email. Now I just need to send a couple emails. I need to set this one up, the clients up, just like you would on your phone. I'm going to set this client up, and this client up, and do some tests. So I click on client 1, go down to email. The username, we'll just call it user1. Email address is u1@email.com. Email.com is the name of the server. Incoming email.com is the name of the outgoing. U1 and U1. I'm going to click save. And at this point, I'm going to compose a message to U2. It works. It's going to be on the server, right? So if I go u2@email.com, hey, and howdy, okay, and I click send, it's going to work. Send has successful. Why? Because it actually goes to the email server. A client retrieves it. Okay, the email server holds all the email, and the email server is working. So I've set up this one, and it just sent an email down to here. Let's go into PC2, email config. Let's call this one user2. Email is u2 at email.com, 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 u2 and u2. Click save. I can do receive. There's the email from u1. So I can click on it and I can reply, and I can be like, yep, click send. And did it work? Yes, it did. It worked, it resolved, it was sent. Okay, so this is finished. Now I should be able to go and set up the client on the third PC. So I can come over here, email client user3, u3 at email.com, 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 and u3. Click save. And I can actually compose a message to u1 at email.com, and then be like another, okay, and send. And at that point, I can come over here and check my email. And let's do a receive. And I've got another one here and my reply back from u2. Okay, so at this point, we've configured all 3 or all 4 of the servers. They all work, and the email server works, and all the devices work. So this is essentially your assignment, okay? And you just need to go through this a couple times, make sure it works, and try to really understand why the thing, like, why does the email server work? What is the email server actually doing? What's the point of the DNS? What's the point of DHCP? So DHCP gives out IP addresses. DNS is the phone book. It basically says, hey, this is the email server. This is the web server. Okay. The email server is where all the emails go for the whole place. It manages all that. And the web server is where the website sits, and it serves out any of the websites. So I'm going to let you go back into the physical side. So for your assignment, you're going to need to come over here, create a home city. You've got 1 corporate office. You probably need at least 2 more corporate offices. Make sure all the devices are in all the right offices. If you go back to logical view, that might help. You could come over here. These ones already have 1.3, 1.2 on it. This PC here, you could call it like PC Network 1. Okay. And then over here, you could call this one PC Network 2. And then over here, you can call this one PC Network 3, just so you know what network they're on. You can't really put their IP address here because their IP address can change because it's DHCP. But when you go to physical view, click on the corporate office, all of your devices are here, right? All of these devices, well, they need to be in different corporate offices and different wiring closets and such. So this one's going to stay here because let's just call that network 1, right? So here, instead of, we'll just call this, just so we'll know, right? Network 1, okay? And then let's add another building. So add a new building, and this building will be called network 2. And then we'll add a third building for network 3. And this is all refresher from what you did in the last part. So there's network 3. We can move them, kind of put them like so. If I go into network 1, I can move this, and it's supposed to go on network 2, and just move it to network 2. And I could do the same thing. I could move network 3 to network 3. Okay, go into the wiring closet. And if I go to logical view, this router right here, we can call this router network 1 router. Okay, and we can call this route. Oh, don't want to do that. We can call this router network 2 router, and we can call this router network 3 router. Okay, and if we go back into same thing with the switch, I kind of like on the switch to do the same thing, network 1, and then this switch here. If you go into config, you can do it in the display name also, network 2. Okay, so it does the exact same thing. And you can come into this one and say network 3. So pretty much when you go into the physical view at this point, you can scroll and zoom in, right? So let's go up here and zoom in a little bit. You could see where things are. So right now we're in the main wiring closet for network 1. So if I come out here, I can call this wiring closet network 1. Okay. And if I go back and open up network 2, there is no wiring closet. So I'll probably want to put a wiring closet in here. That's a generic container. That's a wiring closet. So, and this is network 2. So I come over here, wiring closet, network 2. I think I've just put an N on that other one. And then let's just see. Yeah, N1. So we did that and then come into here and do the same thing. So add a closet and just call it N3. And you do this just so you can be organized on where your stuff's supposed to go. So let me put this inside that room. Come into here, open this up. It's pretty easy. This one stays because I'm in network 1. This next one goes down to network 2 in that networking 2 closet. And then do the same thing for this one. We're going to send this to networking 3 closet. See how easy that is with everything being labeled correctly. Same thing on this switch here. We can just say, hey, click on it, send it down to network 2 closet, and send this one over to network 3 closet. Okay. And then we also have our servers, right? So these servers are on the 1 network. This server's on the 2 network. So let's grab that one and send this one to the wiring closet over there. And this one goes to the 3 networking closet. So like so. Okay, so we have everything that we need. Go back, take a look at it, and technically the network should look something like that, but it could be, in different areas. But anyway, this is what it would look like if you go into network 2. We can drag that PC, put it where it goes. There's only one PC out. Network 3 has its PC, and then network 1 has its PC. So not a lot of complication in the logical and physical side. Everything's still green. Everything looks great. So hope this helps. Sorry it's so long, but I hope this helps. It's pretty. I would say it's pretty comprehensive about everything that we've talked about so far.